Selalunya Bola Itu Life, aku dan Faiz, kita akan letak 2 kerusi kat tempat-tempat yang paling random. And hari ni Faiz, ini tempat yang sangat random. Kita nak berborak dengan guest yang juga random.
Random juga.
Tentang satu perlawanan yang juga sangat random.
Kenapa ada pandit sedangkan Premier League call off?
Premier League called off. Tapi kita ada David James di Malaysia. Dan kita berada di Ascot Star KLCC untuk menemu bual David James. Dan benda yang paling random disebabkan Premier League called off minggu ni, David James pergi tengok FA Cup final kat Stadium Bukit Jalil semalam. Terengganu lawan JDT. Tu yang nak pakai jersey Terengganu tu. Tapi malangnya Terengganu kalah lah. And untuk episod eksklusif YouTube Bola Itu Live ni, hari ini kita for once betul-betul tak nak sentuh EPL langsung.
Tak nak, no EPL this
Kita
week.
nak fully discuss apa yang berlaku di Stadium Bukit Jalil bersama seorang individu yang turut ada di situ untuk menyaksikan final itu. First and foremost, David, thank you so much for taking the time to do this with us. This is not your first time to Malaysia, right? You've been here multiple times.
Hi guys, yeah. No, I've been many times. It's a wonderful country. I've visited a little bit of the country, not too much of it. I mean, most people, as you know, come to KL, but have been to Port Dickson, stayed there.
Ooh, Port Dickson.
Yeah.
Port Dickson, yeah.
And
you must come to my place. It's in the southern part of
northern
part of Malaysia.
No, I've been on the other island, of course.
Langkawi.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yes.
My state.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. You've been to Langkawi then. I mean, to be fair, at
It's
this point you're virtually Malaysian then, David.
Malaysia,
You've been to Langkawi, you've done Port
Port
Dickson,
Dickson.
you've explored
Yeah,
KL,
okay, yeah.
you've been to the FA Cup final, you're wearing a Terengganu jersey.
How's the Malay?
Besar. Okay.
Besar. That's quite funny. David, essentially, usually the show, Faiz and I, we put 2 chairs in random places, whether it's a river, whether it's a mountain, whether it's in the middle of a street. We put 2 chairs and we have a conversation about football, which usually tends to center around European football, with a bit of Asian, but mainly European. We talk about the Premier League, La Liga, and all that. But this week, yesterday, when I was told by our producer that, hey, David is going to the FA Cup final, and I was like, wow, then sums it up really.
We have a good material here.
We need to have a chat about that then, because this is a Premier League footballer who has played at the highest level, who has played for his country, played in some of the greatest stadiums on the planet, and he's going to the biggest stadium in the country with 2 of the best teams in Malaysia, and in front of 85,000 people at the Bukit Jalil Stadium. So, David, first and foremost, how did that come about? When did you decide to go to the game yesterday?
Well, as you mentioned at the beginning there, obviously the EPL being called off because of the sad news with Queen Elizabeth. My flight was in the morning before the Premier League had announced that they weren't going to hold any fixtures. The decision was to still make the flight.
So you flew in straight from the UK?
Yes.
Right.
And when I landed, the driver said to me, by which time I knew that obviously the games were called off, the driver said to me, FA Cup final tonight. And with respect, I wasn't sure what that meant with regards to how many people were going to turn up. I've watched a lot of games in Asia and been there with a few thousand people and tens of thousands of people. So it's kind of, I wasn't sure. So I said to Adam Carruthers, do you want to go? We'll see if we can get tickets. And I was like, what do you mean you'll see? Okay. And then
Adam, come on.
But the thing was, there was a concert next door as well. So I wasn't sure. Oh, excuse me.
No worries.
My English alarm.
No worries. That is probably one of the
10 a.m.
Not wake up alarm. Anyway, sorry. This is life. So I just assumed that something else, and again, because I didn't know anything about the amount of people travelling, and then the driver told me Terengganu were coming from the east, JDT were coming from the south, and I'm thinking that's miles. So, okay. Anyway, we got the tickets, and for me, the most important thing about football, having played so many years in the Premier League, having represented my country around the world, was more after. Where I'd gone to Iceland, spent 6 months in Iceland playing professional, semi-pro football, going out to India, spending a season in India as a player, spending a year there as a manager, travelling around Asia, and meeting football fans like yourself, football fans in their homes, and watching local football, and just what football means to people. And to get to a cup final, having done it a few times, the biggest domestic competition in that country, and for Malaysia, as I said, I didn't know what the number was going to be, and then someone said, it'll be 85,000, and I'm like, whoa, okay. And even then, I mean, myself and Adam, we parked at the studio and walked to the
Astro,
to Astro studio, then walked to the stadium,
Yeah.
and I was thinking, this isn't busy. This is not as busy, and when you can just see through the side of the stadium, and then everything was full. I was like, okay.
Okay. This is now we are talking.
Oh man, what an experience!
Now that you get into the stadium, right? That you get into the stadium and you're waiting for the first whistle from the referee. How would you describe the atmosphere? I mean, for yourself, you saw it yourself yesterday. How would you describe it?
And again, this is one of the funny things. If you just watch the game, I mean, I suppose for Malaysian football fans who watch the cup final every year, you're probably used to this, of course. But there was bits of India, from my experience in India, forgive me, and in the sense of the build-up. You know,
The
there's
festivities?
Yes,
Yeah.
Now, when you're playing, I'll go back to the Premier League. When you play a Premier League game, you walk out, you know, there's a bit of music, you shake hands, and you go and play. You get to the cup final, and there's a little bit extra, but not the same way that they do. It's almost like the Champions League final. And when you go to a Champions League final, there's all this fanfare before it. And as a player, you just sat there in the change room going, "Get on with it." I just want to go out there and play, but you got a rock band. I mean, the band before was
there was a rock performance there yesterday, right?
Oh man! I mean, I went to one Champions League final. They had the two cellists. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them playing the Champions League anthem on the cellos, and I was thinking, wow, that's different. But this rock band, I was like, wow.
Have you been in a final where Oasis played before? No.
No. I've been to. I'm sure Oasis have been at a final I've been at. Yeah, and again, I mean, the fact there was 85,000. One thing I did say to Adam walking in, and from my experiences in Thailand, even a small crowd makes a lot of noise. My experiences in India, and the one thing I love, the drums.
The drums.
Yeah.
It's just the atmosphere was rocking, and I've shown you the video, haven't I? The JDT team, fans singing. You translate it for me, thank you.
They're called the Boys of Streets. That's
Okay.
what the fan group is called. It's the ultras of Johor. So they call themselves BOS, the Boys of Streets.
Boss. For boss, David James, applaud you.
Do you know what? And this is the thing. Before the game, you talk about the build-up.
Yep.
Before the game, I said to Adam, "Yeah, we're going to win," because the Terengganu fans were so loud, so good, and just I videoed them sort of just rocking, and I was thinking, this is a 12th man here. This is gonna win the game. And then in the end, of course, when JDT were doing their thing, I was like, this reminds me of old school English football. They're calling to the left side, they're calling to the right side. Everyone's in unison, and I'm just so glad I went.
I've got a quick question here. I think there needs to be a bit of an explanation as to why you went to the game yesterday in a Terengganu jersey, and now you're sat here with the Terengganu jersey as well. How did that come about?
Okay, so I went to say. I mean, one of my sort of passions is when I go to a different stadium, I will always buy a shirt. But obviously, this is a final, so it wasn't a home team or an away team. When I was walking around KL in the daytime, I saw the Terengganu sign on the side of a van, and I thought, oh, okay, right, cool. And then on the way to the stadium, I saw a sign on the back of someone's car, and I'm thinking, this is a sign for me. So I managed to purchase a shirt by the stadium. I then thought I better buy the other one because it had is it a tiger or a lion? On the
JDT.
It's a
Tiger.
I thought it was tiger. Yeah.
Tiger.
And I was thinking I like cats. But when I got in the stadium, so I hadn't put one on. I got into the stadium, I was thinking, who am I going to support? And I'm like, the sign, the noise. And I sat on the left-hand side of the left-hand side of the centre line. I thought, no, this is Terengganu territory, man. I'm going all in.
And the best part is you donned a Terengganu jersey without knowing that years ago, George Boateng used to play in Terengganu. Not for Terengganu FC, but for their sister team, which was called T-Team FC back then.
Yeah, you've just told me this now.
Yeah.
I'm going to message George and show him the shirt.
Have you been
because-
in a match where you're facing George before?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple of times because you two are in the same from the same generation of Premier League footballers.
I played with him at Aston Villa.
Oh yeah,
And we
perfect.
got to the cup final together as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And like Terengganu, we didn't win. So,
I'm pretty sure George will have a lot of stories about Malaysia to
Yes,
you.
yes.
I hope
They're
so.
good. And I'm assuming
And
there's a
then
bit of
also
a
good
bad
bad,
stuff
yeah,
here and
yeah,
there.
yeah.
George will have all the stories, the lowdown. But going back to the game, David, when it started, I mean, obviously you went to the game. I'm not sure if you had, if any of the guys gave you a lowdown of both teams.
I did some homework.
Who were the stronger ones? Who were the dominant team? But how long into the game before you kind of realized, okay, which is the team to beat really here?
Yeah, I did a little bit of homework.
Okay.
The thing was, even though I wasn't working, I just thought, well, I need to know what I'm looking at. Bergson. Yeah, this guy, I mean, the silly thing is they played each other twice before the final. The 2-1 score lines in favour of JDT. Bergson had scored 3 of the 4 goals. This guy was hot, and he had blue hair as well. I mean, come on.
6 or 7 goals in Asian Champions League. If, let's not.
I didn't look at the Champions League. I was looking more local stuff. And I mean, because obviously in Champions League, the standard can be very varied. But with local football, I was just interested to see who was going to win. And I don't go for favourites.
Okay.
Just because they're favourites. I actually prefer the underdogs. But as the game started, it was like, okay, they look like the better team. There was a lot of pressure from JDT. Without too many chances, granted. I mean, it wasn't a game full of shots on target, was it? But yeah, I was sitting there thinking, have I got the right team here? Have I got the right team? But no, I was loyal.
We talked about the team to beat here, which is clearly it was JDT. I mean, I'm sure you have been in the position before where you are not saying that you are in a team that is below the other team, below the opposition, but you know that you don't quite have the quality of your opponent, but you're walking into a final now. How as a player before, how would you tackle those situations where you know that your opponent are better than you?
Yeah, I think you've got to trust that you reached the final because you were good enough to reach the final.
Fair.
And given any game of football, there is a chance of winning. I mean, you don't go in there like the sacrificial lamb to get smashed.
Yes,
You go in there and say, well, I tell you what, we've got to be at our best. Any mistakes they make, we've got to try and punish. And just hope that, I wouldn't say luck, that you do everything right. I mean, going back to my last cup final with Chelsea back in 2010 in the UK, we lost 1-0. There was a guy called Didier Drogba. I think you might have heard of him.
Sounds a little familiar.
Yeah.
This
This guy, a few people know. He ended up scoring the winning goal as usual. I think that was his MO for Chelsea. From a free kick. And I was very disappointed at the end. It was one of these things, it's kind of like that was avoidable, either the free kick or the goal. And then we lost. Years later, I watched through the footage, and there were some bits that I did better than I'd done before. Like one of my saves was, I was surprised how good it was, even though we lost. But they absolutely smashed us. And then in the end, we missed a penalty. Frank Lampard missed a penalty for the Statos out there. It's the only FA Cup final to have 2 missed penalties, and we end up losing 1-0. But then you look at it and you go, there was no way that we should have won this game. But had we scored our penalty,
Yeah, it would be
whole different
different.
game.
that's the point. You go into it and you think you've got to take your chances. That was our chance. We missed it, and in the end, the right team won. Unlike last night, JDT were the right team to win the game because they dominated and bossed it. But at 2-1,
It can go both ways, yeah.
15 minutes to go, just another own goal by the goalkeeper, and
I think a lot of people expected the tide to turn a little bit
Yep.
at 2-1.
it wasn't long enough.
Yeah, it wasn't long enough,
long
true.
enough.
We want to do something here, which is kind of like have you take us through the goals that were scored last
Yeah.
night in the final. Just give me a second. Here we go. So, this was the first goal. and this was scored on the approximately the 33rd minute mark. Take us through this, David.
Yeah, I mean, this is wonderful play. The ball out to the right. Forgive me for not knowing the names of the players involved.
It was Arif Aiman, a 20-year-old wonder kid, who scored the
Do you know
goal
what? The
there.
finish is wonderful. If I'm going to be analytical, I'm not sure if there's a left back here. As you see the movement of the left back, he overruns.
Oh yeah.
And this position here from behind is the best example. As you see here, he overruns. The slow down is too slow. Sounds a little bit funny, that, but if he slows down quicker, doesn't overrun, then it doesn't create the space for the shot. Now, I'm not blaming. It's not about his fault, but it's just one of these things. Is it Aiman, did you say?
Arif Aiman.
Yeah. His skill level was top draw, recognised the opportunity, creates the space. As far as the goalkeeper is concerned, what can you do?
Do you think the Terengganu left back, instead of shutting the space, he should have just gone straight?
Slow down a little quicker.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
And then all of a sudden you're forcing the player to make a decision. Once you go past the line, all he has to do is cut inside and get the shot.
Right.
Yeah. He creates like a yard, and that's enough.
I want to ask you a little bit about Arif Aiman. Obviously, it's difficult for you to recognize the names of these guys because you're watching them for the first time. But he was essentially playing as the right-sided wing back, but more often than not, he's always up front bombing because his original position is a winger. And he's had a brilliant year, not just for club, but for the national team as well.
Team too,
At a very young age, 20. Prior to this, there was another player by the name of Safawi in his position, and he has actually displaced that guy who was already pretty decent to begin with. What were your thoughts on his performance? Because he was on the right side of the pitch last night for JDT. How influential did you think he was?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about the game, like I said before, there wasn't a massive amount of shooting, shots on target. There was a lot of breakdown in play. So there was some good stuff about. The one thing I was saying, their defence as well, having spoke to one of the guys from Malaysia FA, the pitch wasn't at its best. I think you'd had some kind of rainstorm the day before, which had caused problems. So that, in effect, is also going to interfere with performance. Games aren't generally, unless you're Liverpool versus, who was it, Bournemouth 9-0, or the odd Manchester City game, a few goals is enough to decide the way the game's going to go. So when the moment came and the opportunity was there to get the bit of skill, get past the fullback, put the ball in the back of the net, they're the bits that will define his performance rather than what else happened in the game. There was interesting, let's say skill level across the board, but it broke down a lot. And I'm going to go off in Champions League now, and forgive me for bringing up Europe, but I did some analysis work on the Chelsea game the other day out in Dynamo Zagreb.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. We're talking Champions League
level,
highest level of club football, if you like. And the game kept breaking down. A lot of that is to do with the way that the opposition play. But the moments that decide games, he steps up and scores. And again, from goal, I'm looking at the goalkeepers. First thing I thought was good. So I look at the replay and go, nah, you can't do anything.
Second goal.
This
I'm questioning.
I'm questioning whether it was a penalty.
Oh, you don't think it was?
Let's watch.
Yeah.
This is obviously the goal. It's not necessarily the incident of the penalty, but
good penalty nonetheless. Low.
Penalties shouldn't be missed. They shouldn't miss. But
what's your favorite left or right for you to dive in penalties? What's your favorite side? No.
Don't know. I didn't have one.
So you make the decisions depending on who is taking the shot.
Yeah.
And your instinct.
I mean, yeah.
Do you see the eyes or something? No.
Well, it's interesting the fact that we're even sitting here watching it on a, and I don't want to sound old, but it's kind of like we can do this now. Then players can do this in the change room before the game, before the penalty shoot. I mean, obviously, if it's in the game, it's much difficult. But the opportunity to analyse players and what they do, and I was doing that at the end of my career, was looking at penalty takers, where they favour left or right, and therefore you go into the game thinking, right, I'm kind of going to go that way because that's what the information tells me. However, a decent penalty taker will see where the goal is going. There's a. Right. Am I allowed to give this away?
Well,
the thing is, you cannot physically dive left or right without putting yourself in a left or right position.
Okay.
You know, the one leg has to give up. So if you're diving left, your left leg will give up.
Oh,
so you push
yeah,
to the right.
yeah. That's.
And you can see that before as the goalkeeper's going, you just put the ball the other way. Sorry, goalkeepers
okay.
out there.
Fair enough.
If you can come out with a different physical format for saving penalties.
I'm just trying to find the clip of the penalty, so we can have a brief chat about.
While Keith is doing that, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
One additional question. What's the penalty that you saved during your career that you are most proud of?
That's a very good. No one's ever asked me that question before. The first one.
The first one.
The first one
Was it taken?
For Liverpool against
Versus?
Arsenal.
Against Arsenal?
And Paul Merson.
Oh,
Right. Well, this is back in 90.
I didn't know Merson was a penalty taker for Arsenal.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm talking about the video here.
Yeah.
We played. Sorry, we were playing Arsenal at the at Highbury, the old stadium,
Yeah.
and the week before, Merson scored a goal, top corner, right foot top corner.
Okay.
Wonderful goal.
Right.
Watching it back on like Match of the Day back home. When they awarded the penalty, I've gone, Merce, right foot, curled it that way for that goal. He'll probably go the same way. So if I hadn't watched the video or watched it on telly, I might have dived the other way.
Yeah.
So anyway, he takes a penalty. I dive left, make the save. And the most important thing about that was my first clean sheet in the Premier League.
Liverpool won.
Liverpool won 1-0. John Barnes.
Okay.
John Barnes scored a penalty at the other end. Yeah.
Yep.
He was also here back
he was,
there. I think 3 weeks
last
ago.
month.
Yes,
Last month.
done.
Yeah.
So we've got.
Have you got the incident?
Yeah. We have the incident here from the build-up.
It's a great ball. It's a great run. See, my question is,
okay.
you see the goalkeeper's reaction.
Right.
And it's not that he's not. He could be wrong.
Yep.
He could think that he didn't make any contact. But I'm looking at the way that. Here we go. The fall over's late. It's almost like the keeper's gone. Yeah. There's not an angle that I've seen where you can see
I think this one we might be able to see if there's a clear contact. Oof.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jamo?
Okay, I'm not saying that the angle doesn't help. I'm looking at things and thinking, maybe it wasn't, but I'm not questioning the referee. The referee and there was no VAR either.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the point.
I mean,
For all intents and purposes, that was a foul. The referee's made the call, and in his eyes, made the right call. The penalty's been dispatched. And
so if you were in Rahadi Azli's position as a goalkeeper,
in that situation,
you decided to go off your line. It's either you get the ball, or it'll kill you, right? That's the situation you have to face, right?
It wasn't the only time he came off his line in the game.
We'll get to that, Jamo. We'll get to that.
I mean, as you said before we went on, this is a young goalkeeper, and these are the moments. If you're going to become the best, then today is not the nicest day in your footballing career because of what happened last night. But today could be the most important day in your football career because you have to learn from these situations. Starting position's key. Reading the game is key. We're watching the game and it's like, okay, high line, there could be a ball over the top. We'll be ready for that ball over the top.
Bergson is pretty fast.
He's
but you can preempt that. That's the thing. It's kind of like if you're with experience, you're sort of going, okay, as soon as that ball's played, I'm going to go. The irony, as we'll talk about, is that he did this in the next one, but didn't read the situation the right way.
Right.
Had you reversed the decisions, then the first one he comes out, gets the ball before Bergson, no penalty. And the second one, which he just arguably would have stayed a little bit longer, he doesn't come running out. So it was the right decisions at the wrong time.
So we have the third goal here, and this is the moment.
Let's go, kids.
This is the moment that I think a lot of us thought, finally, we've got a game on our hands.
Yes.
Terengganu reduced the deficit with this one,
Yeah.
and this guy, Jamo. Before I press play on this clip, just a bit of context on the goal scorer. His name is Cheche Kipre from the Ivory Coast. Previously played for Terengganu for a bunch of years. He has been to a cup final with Terengganu before, the Malaysia Cup final,
Yeah.
2018. He actually scored 2 goals in that
Yeah.
game, and they lost the game on penalties.
Unlucky.
It was a dramatic defeat,
Unlucky.
probably one of the most dramatic football
Yes.
games ever.
I remember the game like it was yesterday.
Yeah, incredible. And he was so heartbroken. And then he leaves Terengganu, goes to another team in Malaysia, comes back this season. It's another cup final for him now. And this is the goal that he scores to reduce the deficit.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, this bit of skill here and the presence of mind. Keepers come out, obviously, to get in the position to face the keeper. As soon as that ball dropped out from the keepers, I don't think he had proper control of it. The presence of mind to get straight back onto it, the hunger. I mean, you know, I was on the. The keeper's done well actually to come out for the block, but.
He was unlucky. Yeah.
He was unlucky in the end,
Yeah.
but the presence of mind here, again, we're sort of watching it from behind. Walk the ball's free, bang. That wasn't a shot. There are players in the box for the cross. That was what I was thinking. You don't shoot from here. And then when it went in, I was thinking, live, I was thinking, how's that gone in? Obviously, with the deflection, it helped, but that was unselfish. He could have quite easily have gone for the shot, which I think would have been blocked.
He tried to cross it.
Yeah. And he got the rewards, and we had hope.
At this point, now you were in the stadium. It's like, yeah, you were in the stadium, and usually in Malaysian stadiums in a cup final, when 2 goals is scored and there's a 2-0 lead, there is sort of like you can feel it in the atmosphere. Usually, there is sort of like this resignation as to here we go again.
Yeah.
Especially with JDT, because they've been absolutely dominant over the years. And when you're 2-0 down against JDT, chances are that most of the time you resign yourself to a defeat.
Yeah.
But when that
Try
goal
again
was
next year.
scored, like did you feel a shift in what the
Oh, yeah.
atmosphere felt like?
Yeah. I mean, the video was being the video that I showed you of the JDT fans singing. That was a 2-0.
Okay.
So straight away, I was like, I was sat with some guys who were supporting Terengganu, and I said to them, 15 minutes, just need a goal. Bang, the goal goes in. So I'm sort of doing a little bit of cheering. I'm getting my camera ready to like film the Terengganu fans, their response. Then the other goal goes in, and it was kind of like, it's not long enough.
I give you a little bit of context. You know why? I actually know why Terengganu has been feeling extra hopeful that day. Just at the end of last year, in a Malaysian Cup final, JDT versus KL, Kuala Lumpur, in a Malaysia Cup final. So
This is KL, the minnows.
the Minnows,
Yeah.
So KL won with a proper smash and grab win. Proper
absolutely smash and grab.
Smash and grab win.
Like they just did a couple of days ago against
Against
ATK Mohun Bagan in the AFC Cup. They just took out an Indian
Rings
team.
any bell?
Yeah,
ATK Mohun Bagan played KL in Kolkata, Real Salt Lake Stadium, AFC Cup
I've played there.
quarters. Yeah. And ATK Mohun Bagan had 82% of the ball possession for the entirety of the game,
KL 1-3-1.
and KL won 3-1.
Wow.
It was proper smash and
Proper
grab.
Mourinho ball.
Wow.
Yeah, it was
Proper
vintage
Mourinho
Mourinho ball.
So you can understand why the Terengganu fans.
There was a
has
bit
got
of hope.
Yeah, because if KL can do it just a couple of months ago, then we may can do it this weekend. But it wasn't.
But obviously, what happened, JMO, was the let's go.
Yeah, as I said before, I mean, I feel for him. I do feel for him.
So the goalkeepers union.
Yeah, no. Well, as I say, in this situation, I mean, you got to. I can only assume, having been in his position, so having a bit of empathy. When at 2-0, he wouldn't make the same decision. At 2-1, and only just scoring a few minutes earlier, all of a sudden, all your emotions are all over the place. It's like we've got a chance. So everybody.
you reckon if it was at 2-0, he doesn't come off his line that
Because at
quickly?
2-0 you're losing, you're out the game. The clock's running down, you're out the game, it's kind of like, okay, right. But at 2-1, especially when you just scored, all of a sudden, again, your emotional levels are all over the place. And it's kind of like, right, we've got a chance. You make a rash decision.
Yeah.
You know the guy's going to play the ball over the top. It happened before for the penalty. But so you're kind of prepped for it. And then I'm going anyway. without taking in consideration where the ball's going. And then it's like, well, the one thing, and sort of going all the way through my sort of development, people said if you're going to make a decision, go 100%. The last thing you want to do is run to just outside the box and stop. So he's committed, he's gone all the way. So there's a you know, a congratulation, if you like, for going 100%. The mistake is obviously he misses the ball. Bergson,
he got second chance to.
Well, this is what I was saying. The interesting thing about Bergson is Bergson goes over and there's no contact.
Yeah.
Now, if the ball doesn't land the way that it does, you're wondering whether he was looking for a foul and a possible sending off, or because as soon as the ball lands to one of the JDT players, he gets straight back up again. It's kind of like, oh, okay. No, and I'm not suggesting he was diving, but it was interesting that he went on the floor. For the goalkeeper, getting back up, and then there was it's like one of those classic movies. I don't. You see the keeper running back, and it's like he's going to do it. He's going to get there. And then he gets there.
The
it's like he's
doing
it. What's happened? And then the ball just pops out, and I was like, oh man, come on.
No, it's almost like no. Yeah, don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the bit that I felt for him because it's kind of like you got no hope, and then all of a sudden hope's given to you.
Now that we watched this clip, Kesh, Jamo, I've always heard that goalkeepers, this goalkeepers union, they're very supportive of each other. One goalkeeper to another, because goalkeeper receive so much criticism. The biggest pressure on the field, and it's almost like a different sport to other footballers.
Yeah. Sometimes it feels that way, right? The levels of pressure.
Way.
Yeah.
So let's say we go back to Rob Green versus USA. The mistake. Clint Dempsey shot, it should have been managed. Goalkeeper of Rob Green's stature would have saved that easily. But it happens not only to Hadi Azli, but towards the world-class goalkeepers. So if one of your goalkeeper union's members, having this hard time, would you like ring them or say that no, it's okay? You have a long career ahead of you. I mean, how would you?
Oh no.
No. You wouldn't do that?
No. I mean, I made enough mistakes in my career, and people didn't ring me up. It doesn't mean that I won't ring other. But these things happen. It's the nature of the beast. Interesting. I was sat on the bench for that Rob Green incident.
Oh yeah, you're
next
the bench,
next to Joe Hart. And
God.
You look at excuse me, different relationships and different situations. So we're talking international representation here. And myself and Joe Hart wanted to be in that goal for that game, to face that shot. But we weren't. The manager, Capello, decided that Rob Green's going to go. So in the end, it's kind of like we want our team to win. But the way this team wins is by everyone who's on the bench is not as good as the guys on the field.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean?
I can remember. I can understand that. Yeah.
The goal goes in, and I said to Joe, Joe, the camera's on us, do not laugh. Because that was the moment where, not laugh as in we thought it was funny. It was kind of like, that's one of those things where you sat there and going, we could save that. And we didn't. The good thing about Rob Green's performance was in the second half, he made a couple of big saves. And in the end, we got a draw out of a game which we could have ended up losing. It also meant that I got the opportunity to make my World Cup debut in the following game against Algeria at 39 years old, which was a record at the time. It's been since beaten by the Egyptian keeper. But all these different factors come into place. So the goalkeeper's unit is like, okay, unlucky, mate.
Oh,
but my point was always, and if ever I made a mistake, I'd want the goalie behind me to be going, I could have saved that. Because then you have to be better.
Yeah, all right.
So in this situation here,
yeah.
again, there's a couple of things. There's giving away the penalty, which effectively was the second goal, which was enough to win the game because it was 3-1. This incident here, get them all out of the way now. It's gone. If you're going to improve, then I'm not going to ring him up and say all the best, but it's kind of, you have to learn from these situations. Yeah. And I think to expect people to say, oh, it doesn't really matter, doesn't work. You need a constructive, and sorry, I'm going off on a tangent here. You need a constructive breakdown of why things happened. as a coach or as a friend, if someone can turn around and say, well, actually, I noticed that you looked a little bit like this, or you did this in a
So a
performance
good
way.
analysis with him, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's got to be objective, not subjective.
Yeah, right.
I think the narrative around Rahad Yazli is that he's a young goalkeeper. He's relatively tall for a Malaysian to, burst through the scenes a couple of years ago.
Pretty
with
good
a lot
with
of
his
potential.
legs,
Very
yeah.
good, very comfortable with the
Foot,
ball
yeah,
at his
yeah.
feet. So there's a lot of expectation that he is the future of Malaysian football and that he was going to be the next big thing. And then he suffered an ACL injury, right? That kind of hampered his consistent game time. And now that the guy has, beaten the ACL injury, he's come back, he's looking sharp and strong again. And at a relatively young age, this happens to him. If you could say certain things to him about dealing with the mental side of the game at this point as a 20-year-old goalkeeper, dealing with everything he's dealt with so far, what would you tell him?
Well, again, you've got to be objective with regards to the performance and the performances. And I can only assume, because I'm not him, why did you not come out quicker for the ball over the top with Bergson? Excuse me. Why did you come out so early in the third goal? And if you can, then he will know himself. Oh, I saw this, I felt this, whatever. Then work out how often you do that, because everyone's going to make mistakes. With goalkeepers, quite often the mistake might lead to a goal, or it might lead to an incident which should be a goal. If you're regularly making the same mistake, and if he's regularly making these errors, then either himself or his coach have to sit down and go, right, what do we do to eradicate that error, because this is the one that is constantly causing problems. If it's a one-off, if it's because it's the cup final and all of a sudden it's everything involved in that, then you've got to work out how you prepare for the next cup final to make sure that you're not mentally somewhere else. The cup, it sounds really boring, and I was one of the fans last night of a game of football which I thoroughly enjoyed as an observer, but as a player, that game last night shouldn't be any different to when they play in the Malaysian League any given week, because it's two teams of 11 versus each other on a football pitch. It just happens to be 85,000 people there and the nation watching on telly.
Just the small matter of that.
just a little difference.
I wouldn't want to be in his shoes. Being 21-year-old, sharing the locker room with some of the bigger guys, some of the seniors, doing 2 mistakes in cup final. I wouldn't want to be.
And there is this bit. I mean, again,
you know what I mean?
I've been there. I've been there in cup finals where I've been the guy that should have done better. In the end, if you've got a good relationship with your teammates, which is obviously important, good relationship with your coaches, then you can talk about this. And it sounds crazy, but even after the game, if you're sat there having a energy drink, whatever, and just go, look, do you know what? I didn't feel good. If you're honest with your players or your teammates, then they'll go, okay, fine, we buy that. Or I didn't see this, I didn't see that. And if you can break it down and explain it, then people will go, okay, you're 21 years old, you're not 31 years old, you haven't been doing this all your career. And in fact, if you have, then we kind of expected it to happen. What we need is when you're 22 and we get to the cup final, that you're in a...
Gets called up to the national team, yeah.
Yeah, called up to the national... I mean, the national team is... that's another level, isn't it? I mean, you're talking about AFC, possible World Cup qualifications, all these things that a 21-year-old's got to inspire to do. So you look at the game and go, yeah, it wasn't my best day, but I'm 21 years old. I've got the physical capabilities, I've got the mental capabilities, and I can become what I want to be, and I can become what people expect me to be.
He can become Jamo if he wants to.
Yeah, he can become
right.
David James if he wants. Jamo, just a couple of final questions before we wrap this up. I want to talk a little bit about the atmosphere and in relative to all the other atmosphere that you've played in and you've experienced in the past. But before that, just one question on JDT. They've been absolutely dominant in Malaysia over the last decade or so. They've literally won everything. Very recently, they not just became the first ever Malaysian side to play in the Asian Champions League a couple of years ago, but this season, first ever Malaysian side again to qualify to the knockout rounds of the Champions League. They won their group and all that. But last night, who was the one that impressed you the most on the pitch?
Which player?
Yeah. Was there someone that caught your eye?
caught my eye, Bergson. Yeah.
Actually,
how could he not catch my eye?
Actually,
Blue
yeah.
hair. I've got to say, and again, part of my homework, part of my interest going into the game was looking at who was going to be the key players. And Bergson, as I say, scored 3 goals against Terengganu already this season.
Yep.
And when the first goal went in, I was thinking, right, is Bergson going to score today? And then bang, he scores 2 more in the end. He's got everything that you want from your, I say, star player, including T-shirts outside the stadium. I was tempted, yeah, but the thing was, I didn't want to get sucked. I say this right way. I didn't want to get sucked in. Oh, I've got to support the best player in the best team and wear a T-shirt.
Okay,
yeah. It wasn't. But I was thinking that's interesting. Okay, the one thing, sort of a bigger picture thing, which having conversations, and I am a big fan of Asian football.
Okay.
Not that I know everything about Asian football, but I want to see Asian players, and obviously Bergson might not fall into that category, but Asian teams and Asian players get a better opportunity when you look at the likes of the Premier League and the top leagues in Europe, which club football are the mecca of world football, if you like. Things like having 10 teams in a league do not work.
Yep.
There's not enough gameplay. You're talking about qualifying for the Champions League and getting into knockout stage. That's great. It's going to be very difficult to try and win the Champions League if you're not playing enough games. And someone said last night, I don't know who it was, that there's a talk of amalgamation between...
I was just about to tell that. The structure is changing next season onwards.
Good.
So it's more teams. I think it's about 16, 17
16,
teams.
18 teams, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and this is so important. I mean, just on its own, having more games isn't necessarily going to solve a problem, but the opportunity of having more games encourages more people. And I think you talk about ATK getting beat the other night against KL. Forgive me. The Indian League is the same. They've got 11 teams in the Super League, so they're playing 20 games a season.
That's not enough.
And it's a year. It's not like the old format of 4 or 5 months was fine because you could condense the games in. Players could get game time elsewhere. But when you've got 20 games, that's not enough. No?
Yep.
You're playing against teams who are playing 38, 40, whatever number of games with the established cup competitions. So all of a sudden, it's an amalgamation of the leagues. It's, first of all, a massive commitment by the players who are signing up. They're going, okay, I'm fit enough to play that many games.
35, 40 games in the season, yeah.
And then investment from owners will be saying, right, we've got to put a team together that can last the duration. Then we get the experience from the games. Your 21-year-old goalkeeper has more games to develop in. Your 21-year-old right winger has more games to develop in. And then all of a sudden you go into into the Champions League, a better team. Then you get group stage regularity, you get knockout stage regularity, and potentially the chance to win the Champions League. And that's the development. Once you've got teams winning Champions Leagues from Malaysia, then all of a sudden Europe's going, okay, let's have a little closer look at these players. Let's have a look at their development paths, and all of a sudden you start getting better representation in European top league. And for me, that would be, and I love obviously the EPL. I love European football because I'm from that area, but I want to see the world taking part in this, not just some European hotspot for South Americans and Europeans.
David James talking about our league's structure. Not many pundits done that on our show before. Thank you very much for that.
I think we should ask one final question before we wrap this up.
Go on, Kish.
One of the things, Malaysian football has a lot of issues, has a lot of, not just Malaysian, Asian football, right? Yeah. We know about these issues. We've talked about them for ages. We've debated about them. We recognize them. But there are also things worth celebrating in this region. And one of the things I personally, as a Malaysian or even as a Southeast Asian, take a lot of pride in is some of the atmospheres that we create in this region, whether it's Indonesia, whether it's Malaysia,
India, of course.
and make no mistakes, Jmo, like I've been to the UK, I've watched some games there, and I absolutely love the atmosphere there. But if it was me, purely based on atmosphere, I would sometimes prefer to go to Indonesia to watch a game, or maybe watch a cup final here, because it's...
Maybe because you don't have to pay £50 per ticket. No.
But
I'm not saying how much I paid for my shirts.
But obviously, Jmo, you have played in some of the most intense atmospheres. So whether it's at the World Cup, whether it's at a cup final, whether it's at some of the biggest stadiums you've played at, Anfield. I mean, God forbid Anfield, right? Old Trafford and all these spots. But you also experienced last night. And where does that atmosphere rank amongst some of the best that
You know
you've
it's
played
coming.
in?
You know the question's coming.
It's a question that just had to be asked.
No, but I think, and this is one of the things I love about football, going around the world and seeing games in different countries and different continents, whatever, is the way that they celebrate football. And it doesn't, Anfield, and my first game at Anfield, we played Sheffield United back in '92, and someone said, what about the Anfield Roar? And I'm like, okay, what's that? The whistle went and the cop roared. And I was like, woof. That's what they're talking about. Okay. And different games. And the funny thing is, I'm as a player, a lot of the focus is on the game as opposed to what's going on around the game. So I've been in these games, the 4-3s, Liverpool and Newcastle, where the place has just been crazy. But it's 4-3 because we won the game. So again, the atmosphere is like the background music in a way. Even Man City and Manchester United derby, and beating them at the Etihad. When I signed for Man City, the people said, this new stadium, it's no good, no atmosphere. And I'm like, well, if the stuff on the pitch is good, then the atmosphere is good. We beat Manchester United 4-1. The place was rocking. So, but that's an English type of thing. My first experience, proper experience, I have to say, playing in a foreign team. I was at IBV in Iceland. Okay. We played Red Star Belgrade in a European.
That must have been insane.
We had, I think we had like 2,000 people at best going to watch the games in Iceland.
Which is what, 50% of the population of Iceland?
Exactly. Yeah, it was 50% of the virus.
Nobody's at home. Nobody's at home.
Yeah, we lived on an island off Iceland, and that was half the population of that island. So yeah, you're right. So we go to Red Star, the Maracanã there. 30,000 people, 35,000 people. And this was their first pre-season game. That's the respect that they showed us. But it was 35,000, and our players were like, and I was playing at this stadium. These guys were European champions back in the 90s, early 90s. And 35,000, they got the flares out. It wasn't the atmosphere that they'd have when they're playing Partizan in the local derby, but there was an atmosphere there. And at the end of the game, we lost 2-0. I turned around and I clapped the fans, and they seemed to clap me back. My friend who's from Belgrade said, our fans loved you because you acknowledged them. And I was like, yeah, but they...
Is that Vuj?
No, not Vuj. No. Yeah. I've told Vuj's story. So that was... And again, that wasn't... It was different to what I'd experienced in England. Then when I went to India, we got to the Super League final. In the semi-final in Kerala, in Cochin, we had, the guy reckons there were 70,000 people there. Wow. Okay, the crazy thing is, I mean, the Indian attendance is, I think 20,000 was like the biggest. The Kolkata might have had 60 on the opening ceremony, but we were knocking up these big double-digit thousands of fans. The game that I played prior to that, I think there was about 60,000. And I tell people I've never played in a game without as loud as that, because the fans turn up 2 hours before kickoff. They got the drums, right? So you've got one drum group call there, one drum call there. There's no synchronisation here. They're just banging away. They're doing their thing in their little departments, compared to what I saw last night. But as I said, this was 2 hours before kickoff and after the game of constant noise. And I was just on the pitch, and it's like, I can't shout to anyone because I can't hear myself think. And that atmosphere was just like amazing. So what I saw last night, and I've showed you the video, as I said, it was JDT team, fans, singing, going from left to right, and all that. So I was like, man, that's loud. Now, I've experienced this, as I say, in Thailand and other parts of Asia, but it was kind of like a throwback to me being a fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I'd stand in, I don't know, Highbury or something like that, because I used to watch Arsenal every now and again. And I'd be like, no, song coming from there, song coming from that side. And everyone was kind of like singing with each other. And I was thinking, this is happening here. It's just nuts, but like so good. And I wasn't surprised even when I walked to the stadium with Adam and go, drums? And he said, yeah, there'll be drums. So it's like, I'm looking forward to this. And it did not disappoint.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm honestly, JMO, I'm just really, really glad you had the timing worked out perfectly
Yeah.
for you to get that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, let's be right. We didn't want this to happen,
correct,
but
yes,
in the end,
yes.
I'm just so grateful that.
What I meant by the timing was that we landed the tickets
Yes,
just in time for you to make that experience. Because it's one of the things that I think a lot of people in Southeast Asia take a lot of pride in. The level of atmosphere that we create for some of these games. I think the next thing for JMO would be for him to come down for perhaps the AFF Suzuki Cup.
Wow,
because that is a Southeast Asian
yeah.
football tournament. And the
Okay.
matches between Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, Myanmar, the Philippines, you get some incredible.
You should get
atmosphere.
into Malaysia versus Indonesia. You
Malaysia
should get
versus
into that.
Indonesia is like
Hang on a
it's
minute.
ridiculous.
I've been to Balikpapan.
Balikpapan,
you've been
yeah,
there.
You've been to
Yeah,
Balikpapan.
played out there in a sort of Masters game.
Ah,
But I didn't see any football out there. So at the moment, I've got my team.
Yeah. Balikpapan is a pretty decent team.
Okay, right.
But yeah, you've got your Persija Jakartas
Yeah.
and even just the national team.
They're
Malaysia, Indonesia,
crazy.
it's ridiculous. It's like a war zone.
I was I wasn't
Yeah.
going to say that, but you have. So
So
okay.
hopefully next time
One day,
JMO gets to experience
with us,
the
yeah,
Nusantara
obviously.
Derby. We got to fly JMO down for the Nusantara
Yes.
Derby, Malaysia versus Indonesia. JMO, thank you so much for taking the
Thank
time
you.
to do this. It's been an absolute pleasure, and Faiz and I are absolutely
Thank you very
happy
much.
that you enjoyed the game yesterday. Cheers, JMO. Bola Itu Life with David James.